What's going on, everybody? It's KD Matthews here with K9 Street League, and we are getting ready to start off trial number 4. We're out here in Plant City, Florida. Yes, we've come to the East Coast. We have arrived. Now, this is my hometown area, so it's nice that I didn't have to drive across the country like I typically do. And big thank you to our host for this event, John K at John K9 in Plant City. Great place, great guy. Big thank you to them for hosting this event. It's a wonderful setup. The accommodations are as any K9 Street League event would be. We got vendors, we got food. I'm always a fan of quality restrooms, and they didn't disappoint again. So we're getting ready to kick off here in a little bit. So I wanted to jump on and talk to everyone and just give you a heads up for how today is going to run, how this whole weekend has ran and will continue to run. So this is our first time on this side of the country. Very excited. Because of that, the structure for Street League weekend was a little bit different. Now, that's a great time for me to reiterate what I'm always saying, what everyone who's been to a Street League event says, and the trial portion, right? That's just one piece of what a K9 Street League event is. We have Street Week, we have multiple days of events that take place. Now, being that this is our first time all the way over here, we change things up a little bit. So on Fridays, typically we have the sideshow, which is an invitation only, fairly extremely challenging set of scenarios that are run for dogs. They're all surprise scenarios that we've had at the last couple events. Well, being that this is our first time here, being that Street League is still very new for people on the East Coast, rather than have the sideshow, what we've done is last night was a bite night, meaning we've incorporated a lot of training and exposure opportunities and experiences for all of the participants here this weekend. And that's a big deal. Very big deal. So everyone who registered had access to getting training from Mike Jones himself and the decoys last night going over Street League scenarios. Today, this afternoon, we're going to do it again. So all of the participants who go through the trial today, once completed, will have an opportunity to work out any kinks, get any help from Mike, from the decoys, and work on it again this evening. Tomorrow, there won't be any trial activity, but yet again, they will be running instruction, handler help, decoy work. All of the participants will get an opportunity to go over things that they want to work on more, things that they want more help with, things that their dog needs help with, and get to interact with the decoys. So lots of emphasis on training and education this weekend, and we wanted to do that because we know this is our first time here. Now, with that in mind, make sure you guys are staying tuned to K9 Street League's Instagram channel. If you don't have notifications on already, you absolutely should, because there's a lot of events that take place prior to the trial events. Intro to Street League seminars are going to be happening throughout the year. For 2024, there's a number of them already planned, with plenty of openings for even more. Now, what is the benefit of an intro to Street League seminar? Well, if you're new to K9 Street League, new sport, you just got your rule handbook downloaded from the website, which you can get, by the way, and you're like, what is this? What's the difference? What's it going to be like? Those intro to Street League seminars, that's where you need to be. And with them being held all over the country and now all over the world, they have a couple other countries they're going to hold these seminars. That's a great chance to get out there with your dog and see what the difference is. See some of the nuances to how the decoys are going to be running through the scenarios. Learn the details of the scenarios. Today we're having entry-level trial. There's a scenario here, and if you've been following Street League trials, you know what scenario I'm going to talk about. There's a scenario here that's a common scenario, but it's not commonly run. And what I'm talking about is, you know it, the carjacking. The carjacking is one that typically kind of thins the herd, so to speak. It's run differently than other carjacking scenarios typically are run. So with that in mind, getting to an intro to Street League seminar is a great way to, in person, get to experience, get help from the pro decoys, from the instructors, to be able to work your dog through some of these scenarios that might be new for you, might be a little bit different. So definitely stay tuned in To pick up that information when it comes out, always K9StreetLeague.com. Go to the website. We keep all types of information on there for you for any of those seminars. With that in mind, big shout out, big thank you to our sponsor, Ray Allen Manufacturing. They are a key integral part in making sure these events go off the way they do. They also are your number one supplier for anything for your dog. Now, a lot of people typically think that's only for police dogs. It's only for working canines. No. If you have a dog, you need to go to Ray Allen Manufacturing to get whatever you need. Everything from leashes, food bowls, to all of the bitey stuff, all of the tactical stuff. They got it all. Have it all. Discount code is Primal10, so you can get a discount. There you go. Thank you again, Ray Allen Manufacturing. Now, with that being said, we're getting ready to start the obedience portion. So here's what's going to happen. I'll be here with you guys on the K9 Street League feed. We have our director of decoys, Chris Corley, is going to be on Primal K9 Florida feed. I'm about to bring him in. He will be on the field getting that action for you, and I'll be here running my mouth. Let me see if I can get that camera feed in here. All right. There we go. All right. So, if Tara and Hondo about to enter the field, this is the obedience portion. So what do we got going on? We have some decoys. They are in a standard stationary pattern on the field. What the dog is going to be required to do is heel. That's it. Just heel. I say that's it, but anyone who's done this and worked with their dog knows that when you have a dog who really enjoys biting the guys in the suits, that's an incredibly powerful distraction. As she enters, steps up to the line, getting that engagement, getting that focus. Couple key things here. Our judge, Oscar Mora, who's on the field right now, what is he looking for? Handler help. Can't have it. That handler can give a cue, a command to heel, and that's it. There can be no punishment markers. There cannot be saying no, leash corrections. Anything like that is going to be a point deduction. This is all on leash at this level. Oh, the dog Hondo's a little distracted there. They will lose points for that. So Tara and Hondo have to heel through the decoys. Little contact there. It's going to be a point deduction. What the judge is looking for is how focused is the dog on the handler? Is the dog going to obey the criteria of the command? How distracted is the dog getting? Is the dog within the appropriate position to the handler? These are all the little things that go along with this behavior. Now what's going to happen is our decoys have changed their position. So now they're in a tighter pattern. They're in a straight line. Another heel command is given. Dog is distracted. So we got lots of bumping, lots of distraction in terms of looking at the decoy, moving out of position. Another verbal command has been given. These are all things that the judge is keeping a very close eye on. They return to the starting line. And now we will move into I believe this is going to be our recall. So the dog is put into a stationary position. In this case, Tara has Hondo downing. Now she is going to have to walk all the way past the decoys. Once she gets behind the decoys, she will give the recall command. Now this recall, it's one of my favorites that I've seen, in that what will happen is as she gives that recall command, you're going to see all of the decoys move. So as the dog is coming down towards the handler, the decoys are going to step to the side. Now that was a beautiful recall. That was very impressive. it's interesting watching the handlers, their dogs, and seeing how they handle each individual behavior and command. So Hondo, during that healing pattern, was a little distracted. His head was moving around. He was out of position. Yet we got to the recall, and it was a straight line recall. Did very well. It'll be interesting to see how they come out in the scorecard. The emphasis for all of the obedience, a question that comes in a lot, is, why? Why? What's the point? What are they trying to accomplish here? Why? What went into the designing of these exercises? Well, K9 Street League, it is a bite sport, right? So later on this afternoon, these dogs are going to be doing some bitey stuff. It is imperative, it is paramount that if you have a dog that has been trained to do these activities, it should go without saying that you absolutely, positively have to have control over the animal. So the obedience exercises they exist and they are here to challenge and provide the opportunity for evaluation of the handler and their dog and the control that handler has over their dog. And this is also one of the really cool places where you can see the teamwork that goes in between the two. The judges are looking for how much engagement is there. Is that dog attentively focused? Now, just so you know, because I've had this question before, when judging for the heel and entry level, a focused heads up heel is not required. That is not a requirement of the heel. Now, if they do it, it'll help. Of course it's going to help. That's going to paint a much better picture for the judge. But it is not required that the dog be doing it upward, or there's different styles of healing. Different styles of healing. We've seen it. We've seen dogs who do a straight heads up. That's where you get that prancy. We've also seen dogs, another way to train that is where the dog will have a wraparound, where the head will curve and look up. Neither one of those are a requirement in the entry-level rule book for scoring. Your dog needs to be in a heel position, right or left. Your dog needs to maintain that position, no forging, going ahead, no lagging, needs to be there while you're going through the distractions. And in this case, the distractions are the decoys. These dogs know exactly what's going on. These dogs know that there's going to be biting later. This is what they do. This is what they train for. And that's what makes the obedience portion of these events, or any type of trial. This isn't unique to K9 Street League. Understand this, like, this is a universal of these type of activities, these type of events. We have dogs who train with their handlers regularly. There are clubs all over the place. More and more K9 Street League clubs popping up, but we have all the different sports, from K9 Street League to the APPDA. I get the letters mixed up. Apologies. Great group of guys. PSA, Ring Sport, IGP, or whatever letters they're calling it now. Like, the same holds true for all of them. You have clubs all over the place where people get together, work really hard to build this obedience, build this behavior, build this relationship with their dog, and then they're going to come out to an event where they can showcase it, where they can be evaluated. Well, these dogs, this happens so regularly, it's a part of their life. So when they come out here, yeah, right now they're just doing obedience. That's it. The bite work is not until later. It's just obedience right now. Well, the distraction is the guys that they're looking forward to biting later. They recognize the suit. Between odor, between visual cues, there's so many things that are all cues and associations for the dog to know what's going on. That's where that obedience comes in. And how hard did you train? How much time did you put in practicing? Because it's not just about biting. It's about control and the presence of the decoys that later the dog knows they're going to get to bite. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to do my best I can. I know some people are popping in that either haven't seen this before, or they might catch a replay of it. They're like, what is this? What's going on? And that's what I'm here for, to try to shed a little bit of context to the event, to what's happening on the field with the dogs, what's happening on the field with the handlers, what's happening on the field with the decoys. All of the above. All of the above. Um, so what we're going to do is we will run through the obedience first, have the dogs coming out, then we're going to take a break. During that intermission, we're going to get our decoys some much needed fresh water, get them out of the sun. Many of them are struggling. They're not Floridians. And we are in Florida right now. They're used to that California weather. And having been new to California in the last couple trials, I can tell you, it is different. Every time I go out there, I'm loving the lack of humidity. And right now, some of them are like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, welcome to Florida. This is how it is. After that intermission, we're going to come back and we will start the bite work section. Now, that portion has a series of events. So what we're going to do in terms of the feed here, just so you're aware of what's going to be happening here on Instagram, is we'll run through and have a live feed through the scenario. Then we're going to stop the feed. The field is going to need to be set up for the next scenario. I'm going to need to stop talking, because even though you guys know I can talk 8 hours straight, it's not happening. I'm not that good. Don't want to be that good. That's not something I aspire to be good at. But I'm going to take some breaks in between there. We're going to shut down the feed, let everyone get situated, bring out the decoys for that event, and then we'll run through each dog for that scenario. Hope that makes sense. I can't make it any simpler. So let's see, who do we have on deck here? Javier and Killer. I actually just met Javier recently at the K9 Street League, the Halloween bite event they had, where they also had a decoy cert going on. I got a moment here. Now, just so you guys know, just so you know up front, we'll be on here all day. I will not always be able to respond to comments as they come in. If I can, I will. If I can't, I won't. This one question here is pretty relevant. Is the event going to be streamed? Well, you're watching it right now, and we're streaming right now. So there you go. If we weren't streaming, you wouldn't be able to watch it. So we'll run through all of those scenarios. We got Javier and Killer on deck now to continue with obedience. The field today, and I was mentioning this earlier when we got started, it is not a huge competitor list today. This is the first K9 Street League event on the East Coast. There's a lot of people out here who still don't even know what this is. Now, on the West Coast in California, the events are rather large. Because of that, we structured this whole weekend around training and education. So as I was mentioning earlier, last night, instead of having the sideshow, Intro to Street League bite work with Mike Jones and the decoys. This afternoon, because we have a rather short trial field today, I believe we have, just under 10 dogs. This afternoon will be broken up and more opportunity will be provided for training. So anyone who has any questions, any issues, any concerns, anything they want to work on, they're going to get an opportunity to work that stuff out with their dog and the decoys. Tomorrow, we got our field camera coming in here. Tomorrow will be more of the same. So anyone that registered for the event will have an opportunity to get even more coaching, even more training, even more instruction and help tomorrow as well. That was all done very intentionally, considering that a lot of people here are still gaining familiarity with K9 Street League. So we wanted to make sure we had a lot of opportunities for instruction, a lot of opportunities for education and extra training and extra time with those decoys. All right, Javier and Killer stepping onto the field now. Now, something that's important to note is the minute you are on the field, you are being judged. Our judge is watching everything that takes place. They approach the starting line. Now, again, this is going to be the healing pattern through, call it figure eights, as they walk through the 4 decoys. Now, Javier and Killer are no stranger to competition, right? This team trains. You'll notice the dog's space on the heel, the orientation to the handler, very consistent. He's not even looking at the decoys. This is what the judge is really keeping an eye on. This is what we want to see. This is a good demonstration of focus at this point. Again, they don't have to have that heads up heel. They don't have to have a wraparound head position. That is not a requirement here. However, the scoring on this particular heel routine is going to go very good for Javier and Killer. That was a very good demonstration of appropriate heeling. So there's something to be said too about handler savvy. And we've spoken about this in previous trials. Some of your more seasoned competitors, there's a lot of little tricks you can do to keep your dog focused and engaged without breaking the rules. Sometimes you'll see how just there, Javier kind of took a couple steps forward and then back. Almost like one step, the dog came up and back. What's he doing? He's trying to get the dog re-engaged with him. He cannot use leash corrections. He cannot do any type of physical manipulation of the dog. So little steps like that, that's a little handler trick to say, hey, dog, get with me. Get with me. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Well, technically, that movement wouldn't be considered handler help. Handler help is going to be additional commands, is going to be leash input. Technically, the dog's still healing, but the subtle movements and the unpredictable movements kind of get the dog's focus in a little bit more like, oh, you're not just walking in a straight line. I have to pay attention to you. You might make a half a step backwards. You might have to take half a step forward. It's trying to make sure that the dog is outside of a pattern as much as possible and keyed into what they need to be keyed in on, which is their handler. So now Javier has gone to the recall point, given the clean recall. Interesting, come into the heel position there. It was like almost like he wrapped his head right around him. And what, again, we're looking for here is the dog going straight back to the handler. Is the dog going to be distracted by the decoys, the decoy movement, decoy positioning? Now, for Javier and Killer, this is not their first rodeo. This is not their first time on a trial field. I'm not 100% correct, but I believe, this is unofficial, do not quote me, I think they're fairly accomplished at PSA. And just based off of what I'm seeing right now, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Great demonstration of obedience, great demonstration of control. That's a team. Now, we're all here for the dogs. Like, above and beyond everything else, everyone's here, number one, for the dogs. Everything that takes place here is in the dog's best interest, for the dog's best interest. Whether it is, number one, safety. So when we get into the bite work portion, that's why these decoys are put through the ringer. I've been to several decoy certifications now, and they absolutely test those guys. Absolutely test them. Why? Why do they put them through that? Why is the criteria so high? Well, number one, safety. The safety of the dogs is paramount. You need decoys who are not just athletic, not just intelligent, but physically in shape. You can be super athletic, you can be super strong, you can be super agile, you can be very intelligent, you can have great training skills and abilities. If you're not in shape, you cannot maintain that level of athleticism. You cannot maintain that level of cognitive thinking and response time if you're not in shape. So that's why the decoy certifications and the pro camps that they're required to participate in through the year are the way they are. Dog safety. Beyond that, it's not just the safety of the dog's body, but we're trying to preserve their mind, their spirit. So everything that's taking place on that field, even if a dog makes a mistake, and during the handler meeting is something that takes place before the first dog comes out. It's where our judges, it's where Mike Jones, the decoys, they meet with all the handlers, and they explain to them everything else outside of the rule book. Everything from how to walk onto the field, where you're going to be, to, hey, don't forget, I heard our judge Oscar tell him, it's not that serious. You're here to have fun with your dog. You're here to have fun with your dog. Now, I have yet to see at a K9 Street League event any issue with that whatsoever. The handler dog teams that show up are absolutely amazing, awesome, and you can see that they are here enjoying themselves, even if you don't win, even if you lose points. We got to make sure your dog is having a good time. Otherwise, why are you doing it? All right, we got our field feed about to come in here. So about to jump on the field now is Amanda and Logan. They drove up from South Florida, I believe. Now, typically, Florida events are going to have people from, I mean, I've seen Florida events where people come from as far as Virginia, or I've even seen Ohio back in the day when I was in other organizations. As K9 Street League grows, on the West Coast, we had people driving 8 hours from the other parts of the Western United States. Here, we have mostly everyone here today, I believe, is Florida-based, and that's why we're having the Intro to Street League seminars regularly, so people can be like, what is this? Because it's still new on the East Coast. Some people still don't even know what it is. All right, they are entering the field now. This, again, is Amanda and Logan. Wonderful focus so far. Absolutely wonderful. Dog's got a little prance. They're even color coordinated. Did you see that? I wonder if she planned it that way. The heel command has been given. Now they're about to do the figure eights through the 4 decoys. Lovely focus. That's going to do very well for them on the scorecard. Nice left turns. So on left turns, something to think about is you will see crowding sometimes. And there was none here, by the way. This is a wonderful example. Those left turns were very clean. Crowding is going to be where you go to make a left turn and you bump into your dog, or your dog is bumping into you. That contact on that left turn, that's not ideal. You don't want that. Now, that's different than a contact heel. A contact heel is where the dog is actually going to be touching the entire time intentionally as part of the criteria of the behavior. That's different from crowding. Now, there's no crowding here. This is not a contact heel, and this dog is doing a wonderful job on both the right and left turns. Great focus, too. Really nice heel work for Amanda and Logan. They will do well on the scorecard with that. Approaching back to the line, now is the recall. So she will put her dog, she has chosen to put her dog into a down. The leash is removed. Now Amanda will walk to the rear of the decoys and prepare to give the call. And if anyone's got a camera, they need to be getting some shots of this dog right now, because that dog is doing a beautiful down. Listen, folks, as long as I've been working with dogs, I still can look at a gorgeous dog and get excited just at the beauty of the animal. So she has called the dog to heel. And perfect return to heel position. There was a little bit of a change in pace on the dog. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I honestly think the dog got slightly confused. It almost looked like the dog thought the handler was a little closer than she actually was, perhaps. But either way, the dog did not veer from the path and came into a beautiful finished heel position. Very clean, no contact. That was a gorgeous display of obedience from start to finish by Amanda and Logan. So that will conclude her obedience performance with Logan. Again, that was a really, that was a nice job. That was a nice job. So coming up next, we have Sandra handling Minister Sinister. I saw that name written down. That was the first time I've heard it out loud. And I was like, is it really Minister Sinister? I guess it is. People get creative with the names. So I have a hot take for you while we're waiting for the next team. You ever notice how on social media, you see those posts where people are like, just got a new puppy. What should I name him? All right, so here's my this is not the opinion or position of K9 Street League. This is the opinion and position of KD Matthews, myself. I think if someone else names your dog, then they have part ownership or rights to that dog. Like giving your dog a name, like that's a special thing. You just want a complete stranger naming your dog? Well, so how about this? If I help name your dog, I want part ownership of your dog. If I'm the one naming it, just because it's your dog, you need me to name your dog? Yeah, I want in on that. Again, not the position of K9 Street League, the position of me, KD Matthews. I always see that. Why do people always ask complete strangers to help them name their dog? That's what they got books on that. Like they have books full of names. You go grab a book, look through all the crazy names, come up with it that way. I don't know. It's just me. That's just me. Got a thing about dog names. The obedience portion, typically, you're looking at less than 5 minutes a dog. You don't. I was looking at these comments. You're just here for the gram. You're right. I don't want part ownership of your dog, sir. I know your dog. Your dog is wonderfully owned by you. I don't need to get involved in that any more than I already have. So entry level scenarios in terms of the obedience, they're quick and they're to the point. We don't need to have anyone like dancing with a hula hoop with a chicken on their head, wearing a tutu, handling the dog. Like maybe that's level 2 or 3. That's not entry level. So entry level is the bare minimum mandatory level of control. Can your dog heel in and out, in and around heavy distractions? Can your dog come when called in the face of heavy distraction? That's it. There is a down stationary involved in the recall. So the recall exercise actually gets some of that duration down under distraction and a recall all mixed in together. It doesn't need to be much longer than that. That's it. Now, as the levels increase, as the levels move up, yes, you'll see things get a little bit more creative. You'll see things get a little bit more, sometimes a little weird, a little crazy, especially in upper level events and all the various sports. And you'll see a lot of influence from other sports in all sports. The elements in particular, a lot of elements from Mondio Ring have been brought into a number of sports, different ones. And that's the beauty of it, is we have a number of sports that are in existence, and each one has its own flavor. Each one has its own unique quality. And then you'll see those elements be borrowed and incorporated here, incorporated there. Someone just mentioned, like, you'll have some where there's tennis balls, there's all kinds of distractions, bite, tugs, sleeves, suits on the ground. All right, we got our second feed coming in right now. So again, we have Sandra and Minister Sinister. Finally, we have our first non-herding dog of the day. I do not know the breeding of this dog. I have an idea, but I'm not certain enough to comment on it. Gorgeous animal. I am, and those of you who know me know I am a little partial to the bully type stuff. I'm a pit bull guy. I'm a band dog guy. People don't even know what a band dog is anymore, even though they breed them. Term you don't hear as much. I like the American Bulldog stuff. I like the Pit Bull stuff. I like all of, like, there's some great programs too out there right now. Phenomenal programs. So when I see a dog like this, yeah, personally, I get a little excited. Lovely healing. All right, got some content. So now that would be considered crowding. Lovely focus. So see that right? So right there, there's contact on those left turns. We'll have to see. I don't know how our judge is going to, how that's going to affect the final score, but the engagement is there. Beautiful, beautiful focus. You cannot take that away from them. Look at that focus. I love seeing a dog like that throw that little prance in. Everybody just thinks it's all for Malinois and Shepherds. Oh no, that is not the case. That is not the case at all. So I really enjoyed seeing that work there. Now they're going to do the weave. Same. The dog is completely ignoring the decoys. We got a couple little spots there, though, where the dog did get distracted. She had a little contact, again, on those left turns. And I was mentioning the left turns earlier. And in this healing pattern here, some of those left turns got a little sticky. Ooh, completely lost focus there. Now the dog is in the stationary down. Handler will be moving to the rear of the decoys. Second down command given. Now that's a decision made by the handler at that point. The handler they know who their dog is. They know who their dog is. So in that moment, she decided to give a second command, and they're allowed to do that. Multiple commands in some of the situations will result in a single point. Oh, what a beautiful recall. A single point deduction. That was an entertaining recall. The dog came back. The dog recalled and did some lovely bouncing at the end. That is lovely healing. That is, again, I love to see it when I love it a little bit more when it's not a Malinois, when it's not a herder. I just saw someone mention Stone Grove. I'm not sure. That's what I was thinking. I'm not sure. Is that dog from that program? I knew there was a chance of that. That's a program that I have a great deal of respect and affinity for. And I feel like that bouncy, fun, energetic movement, like, I feel like I see that more out of those type of dogs. And it could be because I'm biased. It very well could be. All right, so as they are going back to staging, I believe we have Marcella and Nimby's up next. So right now, they are going to take a quick break as part one obedience. We're going to stop the feed here for a moment. I'm going to pop back in here, and we'll continue on with the obedience. And then from there, bite work, you know how it goes. All right, we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So, fix my microphone. So now we have Marcella and Nimby's. We are still in obedience. We have one, two, I think 3 or 4 dogs left. Not a lot. So let's get our field camera uploaded. And one of the reasons why we'll stop the feed and start the feed again is just file size, because we are downloading all of these so that we can get it on YouTube and get it on other channels. How many dogs in the roster? I think total 1, 2, 3. like 9 or 10. They have a question mark on a couple names. Don't know if they were pulled at the last minute or not, or if there were any last minute additions. All right. They're on the field, Marcella and Nimbies. We got Belgian Malinois. Now, one thing a judge is absolutely going to do is the judge is watching the whole time. They're going to be looking to see, how is that dog entering the field? How are they walking onto the field? What is going on? What's the energy level like between the handler and the dog? Looking for our feed here. We're trying to get this field camera on for you. Well, you can take my word for it. They're doing a decent job. Here we go. Let's try it again. So we have our director of decoys, Chris Corley, is actually on the field from Primal K9 Florida account. And there he is. You don't want to just see me. You want to see the team. You want to see the dog and the handler. So your more experienced handlers, you'll see a variety of different things from them in terms of even body posture, how they're holding their leash, where their hand is, because there's things that they really want to avoid happening. One thing they really want to avoid happening is that dog hitting the end of the leash at any point in time. You would rather have a little bit of extra slack down there so that they don't hit the end, because we don't want any confusion. We don't want any possible interpretation of a leash correction being given, regardless of whether it was intentional by the handler or not. Hitting the end of the leash is not going to be a good thing. So how they position their hand as they walk, that's something that comes with a lot of experience. And in some of our previous trials out in the West Coast, we had some very, very seasoned competitors, people who have been on trial fields for various dog sports, various organizations, and you could see not just the difference in their energy level as a handler, you could see how they moved differently. And oftentimes it's very reactionary based on how their dog is moving, because you got to remember, this is a team sport. Team sport. This is not all about the dog. This is not all about the human. The handler and their dog are a team. They're a team on the field, and they are a team at training all through the week. They are a team at home. 24/7, they are working together in some capacity, some context. There is that level of awareness of the other one. It just so happens this type of event, these scenarios have criteria to where that teamwork is going to be evaluated. So we're getting ready to see Nimby's recall. That's not going to be good. So the dog was recalled to the handler and took the first decoy in line. Nice full mouth grip, though. I mean, there's got to be some said about the dog's grip, even though that's not going to work out well for them in terms of the scoring and a good out. Unfortunately, right now, grip and out aren't two things that are going to be evaluated, because the dog isn't supposed to bite, period. And what just happened after it is really important. The clapping. Why were people clapping? Because at the end of the day, that dog had a good time. Is that gonna? I just heard our judge. He said, "Nice bite." You know, we're here to appreciate and respect the dogs and the dog-human teams. All right, that's what it's all about. I mentioned that earlier. Safety of the dog and fun experience for the dog. So as far as the scorecard goes, that's not going to work. Dog wasn't supposed to bite. Dog bit. That's it. But yet, I wasn't the only one, apparently, commenting on the grip, because it was a nice grip. And when you're here for the dog, and when you're here just looking for above and beyond everything else, the good experience of all, we can look at that and say, oh man, that sucks for them in the scorecard, but that was a nice grip. And then the out that came after that, oh, that's a nice out, right? You may not always leave with a trophy, but the potential for you to always leave with a lesson is always there. There's always the opportunity to leave with a lesson, and that's in anything you do. Anything you do. I'm not just talking about a dog sport trial. I'm talking about life. You put yourself out there, you work hard in preparation for it, you go out, and at that point, whatever it is you're involved in, that's the day to see how well your training has worked out. That's the day for you to see what areas you've done well in, but more importantly, what areas you need to go back to and work on. That's what we mean by we say you're either leaving with a trophy, but you're always leaving with a lesson. Now they have some work to do. Just like I need some caffeine. All right, let's see. Who do we have next? I believe we have Jillian and Mayhem. Now, a question that I've gotten and I've heard before is in the context of people who do participate in multiple different sports. There are a lot of people who cross-train. A lot. And when we're talking about cross-training, what's going to matter most is how are you setting up your training scenarios? If you are working in multiple sports, you need to be really aware of the rules in those sports. You need to make sure you are addressing any potential conflict in you're teaching your dog this behavior for this sport, but then you're actively competing in another sport where that behavior could be the opposite of what's needed, or there could be some conflict in what you're teaching. So for some folks, they will choose to just trial through one sport till they're done and wait until they've achieved whatever milestones, whatever goals that they had for that sport before they begin another sport. Some will cross-train. Some will bounce back and forth in between too. Now, if you're dealing with sports that are all bite suit oriented, okay, you can probably get through that without too many issues. Just be smart with your training director and everything that you're doing at home. Now, if you're working a sleeve sport and a suit sport, there's some room for some potential confusion there. That one's going to require a little bit more thought. So back onto the field, we have Jillian and Mayhem. I believe speaking of cross-training, I do believe that they compete in PSA and have titled several times. I'm guessing. A lot of people didn't fill out the handlers didn't fill out their forms with all their information, so I'm left with some guesswork here. But I have met Jillian before. I do know of her. She is local in Florida, and I'm pretty sure that they have been on the PSA field as well. She'll be getting her healing pattern. Again, where the dog's head position is there is no requirement in the entry-level rule book for an upward or a wraparound. However, that is going to be a more favorable appearance. The judge is going to look at that and say, hey, this dog is giving full attention the whole time. Fairly clean routine, fairly clean. They're now returning to the start. Exercise is over. Now our decoys are going to get into the straight line, at which point Jillian and Mayhem are going to have to return and then weave through them. Nice approach. Dog is not interested in the decoys at all. This is where the training comes in. So the dog has seen this picture clearly in training, as it should, to prepare for this event, to prepare for any event like this where the dog's going to have to be in close proximity to the very people it Mayhem really wants to bite. That was an excellent display of focus and attention through that heel. Now they're going to return to the starting line. and prepare for the recall. Down command has been given. Leash will be removed. Jillian will now proceed all the way down the field behind the decoys. Now, from this camera angle, from my angle where I'm sitting, I got a big fence right here in front of me too. Like, it's visually challenging. But in previous trials, we've seen a lot of variation. And I haven't seen as much variation here with how the dogs recall. Some dogs will go right down the center as the decoys split. Some dogs will go all the way around. I've seen some dogs weave through. Here's the recall. Now, I'm going to say that looked like the dog was almost thinking that the handler was at the back of the line, and then realized that's not my handler, went up a little bit. Now, Jillian made a smart call there. She recognized her dog was a little bit lost. The dog wasn't where he needed to be. She gave a second command. Will that be a point deduction? Pretty sure it will be. However, that's a smart deduction to take. And this is where handler savvy, handler experience comes in, because sometimes you need to intentionally take a deduction to avoid a bigger deduction, to avoid a bigger hit or getting DQ'd from the entire exercise. So that was a really smart call on her part. She's watching her dog. Remember, this is another example of how I'm saying this is a team sport. This is all about the two of them working together. So now on deck we have Melissa and Colt. Little decoy switch out here as well. Checking out our feed right here. Now, Colt, I met them at the last cert, or not the last certification, but before that, they were out in California, and I'd actually been following the dog on Instagram. Yeah, I was following the dog's account on Instagram. It's a cool account, gorgeous dog. And then getting a chance to meet them in person was really, really cool. So right now they're off the field, got to get in their heads right. All right, they are on the field. Gorgeous German Shepherd. Beginning the heel pattern. All right, first exercise done. Now the decoys will move into their new pattern, which is going to be a straight line. Melissa and Colt will need to do a little weaving through there. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue, although she has noticed his focus there. He's keyed in on something. He's doing okay now. And you'll see that sometimes, where a dog will suddenly become very visually engaged, and you're almost kind of like, oh no, what's going, and then boom, command is given, dog comes right into behavior, does what it needs to do, just like Colt did just there. She's put him in the down, and now they're getting ready for the recall. So now Melissa will make her way down to the end behind all the decoys. Now we've seen a couple of dogs today. They get towards the end of that line, and they're looking for their handler. They get this. Two dogs, I'm going to say that happened to. One got a little bit more distracted than the other. Let's see how Colt does. Beautiful. Super crisp, super clean. That was a nice recall. Beautiful heeling all the way back to the start line. Great, great performance by Melissa and Colt. Exercise over. Well done. Well done. Lots of applause. So our last two dogs are actually going to be handled by two of our decoys. We have Chris Sotelo handling X, and then after that will be Jordan Henderson with Atlas. Decoys have dogs too, you know. They want to come out and have fun. Their dogs want to play. And they're going to get to do that today. Now, being a full-time Florida person, I will say I am incredibly appreciative of the fact that there is a breeze right now. And I think some of our out-of-state decoys need to be a little bit more appreciative. It was very entertaining how some of them are struggling and not too happy with the humidity. I'm like, guys, today's a beautiful day when you live in Florida. But I understand now, having been out to California several times for the other trials, that it is different. It is different. Go out there, and I'm always in great mood because there's no humidity. People are like, wow, what's the big deal? I'm like, because I'm not in Florida. It's gorgeous out here. But as far as Florida days go, this is not a bad day to be in the suit. I've been in far worse. Once upon a time when I used to do that stuff in July, 95, 96 degrees, super humid. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. I'm glad I don't do that anymore. Now I sit over here with sunglasses on under a shade while all of them put on suits and run around. All right. So now we have Chris Sotelo and X are up to the line. Well, they're technically not up to the line. They're getting ready to enter the field. Then they will make their way to the starting line. Gorgeous little pit bull. I already told you, I'm transparent. I'm honest. I am partial to pit bull terriers, working bully mixes of all kinds, of all programs. Well, the good programs. Um, I am partial. Yeah, yeah, that dog has not a care in the world for those decoys at this moment, which is exactly what Chris wants and what the judge is looking for. A little bit of lagging, though. We have some lagging, major distraction right there. Dog's completely lost focus. That's going to be a hit in the scorecard. Now, the question that comes up often when we do talk about different breeds is how does that influence outcome? How does that influence training? How does it influence performance? Well, it absolutely does have an influence. Individual dogs of the same breed have different temperaments, have different personalities that you have to absolutely take into account. That's why you will frequently hear dog trainers say, work the dog in front of you. Yes, breed can give you some general expectations of potential traits or common themes, but at the end of the day, you got to work the dog in front of you. Now, having handled and worked with a large number of American Pit Bull Terriers, American Staffordshire Terriers, Bully Crosses, Bullies, that whole umbrella, there are some significant consistencies. Are there always outliers? Yes. But I have found, you know, there's a little bit more sensitivity in some of those dogs, which can make, well, not make, which will require you to really keenly be able to adapt to whatever the dog in front of you needs in that moment. The handler sensitivity is something fairly common amongst the pit bulls and their kin, cousins, etc. And for some folks, that's a real challenge. I'll be honest with you. For me, that was a challenge. That's why I really enjoy working with those dogs, because it requires a lot more out of me, a lot more mental and emotional presence, because sometimes these dogs, you make eye contact with them the wrong way and they get their feelings hurt. Whereas you can take a lot of herders out there and they can take a lot more pressure than that and they will step up their performance under that pressure. Lots of times with your pit bulls, that pressure from the handler has to be perfect. Perfect amount, perfect read, which is why to handle one of these dogs at a competitive level, I have a lot of respect for the handler to be able to work through that, navigate that roller coaster with the dog. So you really got to know your dog. Here we go, is the recall. Smooth recall. Smooth. No hesitation. I would say out of the 3 exercises here within this obedience, that recall is where X excelled. Some of the healing, there was some lagging. That recall, smooth, even pace all the way through. And return to the starting line. Good performance. There we go. Lots of love for that little dog. So we have our final dog coming up. Going to be one of our other decoys, Jordan, handling Atlas. Jordan Atlas getting situated. They are at the entrance. And about to enter the field. focus up to the starting point. Now, I had a great conversation with Jordan earlier. Jordan is one of our K9 Street League Pro decoys, and we went down the rabbit hole earlier. Had a great conversation with him just about animals in general. He spent a lot of time in South Africa as a out on the wildlife preserves, observing the animals, being right out there, and we got nerding out about the African hunting dogs, the Cape dogs, and their behavior, and we started talking about animal behavior and genetics, and just really great conversation. Great guy. We'll see him in the suit on the second part of today. Right now, he's holding the leash, getting ready for the second portion of the heel work. Now, Jordan has his own dog training business out of Denver, Colorado. Inconte. I don't know if I said that right. Inconte. I had to write it down phonetically because I couldn't get it. And I'm like, okay, what is the name? What is the name of this business? Comes out, it's the Zulu word for the African hunting dog. So he named his dog training business after the Cape dog, African hunting dog. I understand the fascination. Truly remarkable species. If you ever want to nerd out about a cool animal, that's a really cool animal, not just because it's a dog either. Jordan is making his way back behind the decoys for the final portion of the obedience routine for these two. And this is also the last handler dog team for today in general for obedience. So what that means is right after this exercise, we're going to cut the feed, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with the bite work. And that was a beautiful recall with a nice little smack at the end. Dog did not hesitate, did not waver, went exactly where he needed to go. Now they return to the start line. Beautiful focused heel. Again, that head position is not a requirement, but it definitely doesn't hurt. Exercise over. Beautiful performance, and that will also end our obedience portion for today. I will be back after intermission with the bite work. Again, thank you to John K from John K9, who's hosting this event at his beautiful facility. Very appreciative for this. This worked out really well. And a big shout out to our sponsor, Ray Allen Manufacturing. Discount code Primal10. Pet dogs, working dogs, everything you need. Check them out while you're waiting for me to come back. Take care. We'll see you soon. Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are back. Yes, bite work has begun. The picnic table scenario. For those of you familiar with Street League, for those of you not familiar, well, you're going to get to see it right now. We have Tara and Hondo are getting equipped right there behind the starting line. And we have our on-field camera feed coming in right. So this is the part where generally people get the most excited, because now is when the dogs are supposed to be biting people. Our first scenario is called the picnic table. That picnic table scenario, it's designed to mimic kind of like a family outing, getting ready to go set up for the picnic. Handler and dog are going to be grabbing bags from their car, right? You know, you're loading up for the picnic, and you bring a bag out, you put it on the picnic table, and there's going to be a sketchy character. Now, today's sketchy character couldn't be any more sketchy, but he's a really good guy. I know him, Chris Sotelo, talented decoy as well. Chris is going to be harassing, being slightly obnoxious, imposing his presence upon our handler as they are unloading their vehicle and putting these bags on the picnic table. And eventually he's going to grab one. And at that point, dog is going to need to engage that thieving picnic table bag snatching bad guy, aka Chris Sotelo. Now, you did just see Chris out handling. He was handling with his dog X in the obedience portion. Little background on Chris: he's out there in Southern California. He owns Sotelo Family Canine, and I mean, I have to wonder if he sleeps in his bite suit, because this guy is obsessed and completely dedicated to the craft. He's at every pro camp. I just saw him. He was in Florida recently for the last certain pro camp that we had. He's all over the place. Very dedicated to being here, to being active. And right now, if I can get a camera back on the field, let's see what's going on here with that. Because you guys don't want to stare at me. I don't want to stare at me. I want to watch the dog. Let's see here. Let's try this again. There we go. We're up and running. So this is what I mean. She's getting the bag and bringing that bag to the table. Now, all other things are being judged here as well. The dog is in a heel. She puts the dog down. As she puts the bag on the table, the decoy is verbally harassing. She gives another heel command. The heeling is being judged here. So now what happens is the decoy gets closer to the table as they get more back. So as the exercise proceeds, the decoy is going to get closer and closer to the table. This is the final bag. So they need to go around the cones. She just caught herself there. Dog is giving a down command. Now is when our decoy will start approaching to the table. It's going to grab a bag. Bite command is given. Tricep bite. Good. So what happens there is decoy presented opposition with the bag. The dog comes off the bite. That's going to be a problem on the scorecard. Now, it was interesting. I'm not sure the thought process there. She immediately then gave the out down command. You know, in one sense, that's protecting the whole scenario from getting worse, because the dog did immediately out, did go into a down. At that point, it's not about the scorecard anymore. And as a handler, man, that's where your wheels are turning. This is not just the dog that's working. This is the handler who's mentally working, because they're having to react moment to what's going on. In that moment, your dog came off the bike, saw the dog come off, saw the dog have a little momentary challenge with re-engaging. She chose in that moment to then just give the out down command. At that point now, once that dog's been told to out and down, well, he's not going to re-engage. So at that point, there's no opportunity to salvage the scenario at all. If a dog comes off of a bite, it's not the end of the day for that dog. They do have a chance to re-engage. Dogs will come off of bites for a variety of reasons. Poor grip. Yeah, you could say, well, if the dog had a better grip, that wouldn't happen. You could also say suit material, a variety of variables. As long as the dog immediately comes back and tries to re-engage, that's what our judges are going to be looking for. However, this dog came off in the presence of opposition. Dog was caught, and when the opposition comes over, dog immediately came off. Either way, handler reacted, gave an out down. That was her decision to do, and proceed from there. Our next dog will be What do we got coming up next? I believe it's going to be Javier and Killer again. Let's see if they take 45 minutes to go to the bathroom in between. Hopefully not. Hopefully Javier learned from last time. And you could see a clear, speaking of Javier knows it's all good. I'm going to bust his chops because I can. I bust everybody's chops. So you saw when they came onto the field, Javier and Killer, you could see the experience. You could see the trial experience in them, in the dogs' incredibly neutral demeanor, lots of focus on the handler. It was well presented. They worked well together. I'm really looking forward to seeing them in the bite portion here now. Let's see, do we have our other feed on? Yes, we do. I know someone asked earlier, do we have if we have the scores from obedience? I do not have the detailed scores. I think I might have an unofficial scoring. Yes, unofficially, going into bite work, Jordan and Atlas came in with 98 points. And Amanda and Logan are going to be in second with 96. And then Melissa and Colt with 93. Unofficially, of course. Here we go. Javier and Killer. Now, Javier and Killer are coming into bite work with, where were they? With 79 points from obedience. And approaching the table with the first bag. Grabbing the second. So you get the idea. It's not a complicated exercise. They grab a bag, they go around the cones, they proceed to the table, they drop the bag off. Third bag, decoy comes in, snatches bag, handler sends dog. So we are on our third and final bag. Dog is sent. So here's a perfect example of what I was talking about. Dog came off the bite, not for failure to engage. That was a grip issue. Dog came in hot on a tricep bite on that angle, immediately re-engaged, That was not an issue of commitment in that case. It's an issue of he slipped. Well done. Scenario complete. Chris. Yeah, just, I mean, real quick. So I'm going to hand you off and put you in really good hands. I'm going to leave you with the director of decoys, Chris Corley, for a brief moment. He's better looking than me, so you're probably going to enjoy it. Chris. See, look at him. He's so much better looking than me.
Hey guys, good afternoon. How are you? How's everybody doing? As you see, we got our on-field camera zoned into the next handler. Got Amanda and Logan. Amanda and Logan. So usually what you see is these handlers are taking advantage of the time that they have to iron out any kinks prior to getting onto the field. Rich Aquina, one of the trial judges, are making sure that they're within standard before stepping on the field. All right. All right. Dog is walking on Amanda and Logan. Amanda and Logan. They killed in on obedience when they first went through, as you guys saw earlier this morning. Really good focus, really good communication. You can see there's a nice bond between her and her dog as they manage to step up to the prep line. She's going to take her time. Again, now the focus on this is to approach the box. You have those 3 bags set on the exit of the box. They are slightly weighted. We have them filled with a soft material as to not injure the dog, but give enough weight to them so we can have an effective strike against the dog. See, the dog was slightly confused. Handler now is going to approach the table. They're going to stop, sit or down their dog. You see Logan is geared towards Chris right now. Chris is antagonizing and trying to stimulate the dog and draw it off of the owner, the handler, to ultimately shave points. I mean, that's our goal as decoys at the end of the day, to manipulate your showing to shave as many points off within our breaks. Amanda's grabbing that second bag. Clean heel off of the box. She's going to now navigate around the outbound cones. You see we have them marked. Pretty much doing the NASCAR circuit, guys. Very simple. Approaching the table, about to drop the second bag. Now Chris has moved to the closest set of cones. Now he can address the handler, stimulate the dog. As she's backing around, this is the last and final bag. Now, as she grabs this bag, it's the same motion to the table. The difference is before she sets the bag, she's going to stop and sit her dog. She's going to address the decoy. Hey, don't touch my bag. She will then drop the bag and then reiterate, hey, don't touch my bag. You see Chris is really picking up the stimulus. It's very free floating here. Each decoy has their own little twist to it. Kind of play a little bit of head games. You can see Logan a little focused. Handler has to pass that cone before she can send the dog on her command. Chris is going to catch the dog on tricep, immediately into the 2 bag strikes. And we're looking for full grips, confidence on the bite, right? That was to see if the dogs have any decoy conflict. These 2 strikes, a little padded, a little soft. Chris can take a harder hit than that, but that's to see if the dog has any handler conflict. You get 3 opportunities to out your dog within a reasonable amount of time. Amanda picks up her dog. It's going to be end of scenario. Now, let's see for the trial picture. If you need to finish through and continue the obedience all the way off field, you're more than welcome to. Everybody giving a round of applause. That was very well executed. They did strong in OB here. You can see there was a slight delay with their out. So something to think about, guys. Again, the first initial strikes with the bag is to see if the dog has any decoy conflict. And then the second 2 strikes, the second volley of strikes, are coming from the handler to see if the dog is a little weary of mom or dad. We are running through it today. It's a beautiful day out here. We had rain all through the weekend, cloud cover up through this morning. Mother Nature blessed us with some cool winds and sunshine. Hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you for tuning in. Tell your friends about it. Get another phone, hop on the live, comment. Let me know if you guys have any questions while I'm here. I'll be happy to answer. See, Chris is just getting his reps in, staying warm. This is the picnic table scenario, guys. The picnic table. This is the first scenario after obedience. Following this, we're going to go into our bag snatch. And we're doing all entry level through this trial. We have no ones. Obviously, it's first trial here on the East Coast, so we want to make sure that we provide a good foundation for everybody. Get a couple of reps in, experience the entry level before we before we start opening ones. I appreciate the comment, Farouk. Thank you, man. Who's going right now? All right, so the next dog that is coming up, very good question. Thank you. We're going to have Sandra and Minister, or Sinister. Minister, Sinister. Sandra and yeah, Chris Sotelo is we call him the Matador. Very fluid in his catches, really knows how to implement that pressure onto the dogs. Then we have our judge right here behind us, Oscar Moore. You can't see him, but you'll probably see him on the camera. Here you go. Our on-field camera girl.
I'm curious about this next one.
Yeah. I think lower legs, yeah?
This one? Minister?
Yeah.
He bites leg?
I'm assuming so.
We should ask.
Yeah, we should figure it out so we can tell Chris. Some glasses upside down, bro. He's out here. Hey, listen, I put him upside. I'm gonna address this. All right, then we're gonna get back to the trial. All right. If you have questions about my personal image and how I wear my equipment, please feel free to send me a DM. But I hook the sunglasses inside my hat so they don't fall off, because I have them the other way, they can fall. Run around with dogs all day. I don't want to, break my Oakleys. Look, I'm going to hand it back. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate you. Again, we have, where we at? Sandra and Minister Sinister coming up, guys. Stay tuned. I'm giving you back to Katie. Thank you.
Isn't he just a breath of fresh air? I think he is. All right. So, who do we have here? We have Sandra with Minister Sinister, who, quite honestly, I enjoyed watching this dog in obedience. I did. I loved the prancing. I loved, especially on the recall. It might not have been the best for the scorecard, but just seeing him hopping around back there made me smile, because I could clearly see that dog was having fun. And outside of safety being the first priority, fun, second one. And he was definitely having fun. And that's what it's all about. I like seeing dogs having fun. So she's grabbed the first bag, proceeding to the picnic table. Oh, we should put this on, right? Going back for the second bag. Great focus. So now our decoy is upping his presence, upping his pressure slightly, getting closer, making his presence more known, getting louder. Now, one of the things here that the judge is going to be taking note of is there's significant crowding. And her left leg is making a lot of contact with the dog, and it's not because it's a contact heel. Third and final bag. Now, Sandra and Minister Sinister were coming in at 86 points out of obedience. Decoy is going to grab the bag. We got a send coming here. He managed to just get to the D's, not all the way down. Great hit. Dog took the opposition with no issue whatsoever. Still on the bite. We're good. We lost our field feed. Dog is out it, take my word for it. And she's now healing away. Take my word for it. Yep. Go ahead. One thing you can do is you can just close out the app and come back in. We're working on that field thing. I know. Guys, and just so you know, when the field cam goes down, I see it immediately because I can see it on my screen here. So she's standing right in front of me, Billy. That's who I'm talking to. She's on the other cam. Now, on deck, we have Jillian and Mayhem. We're working on the field cam thing for you guys. Here we go. I just got the invite, the request. There we go. We are awesome, folks. Now, let me explain this to you. The entire team at Street League did an amazing job moving all of these supplies from just outside of San Jose in Gilroy, Northern California, across the country here to Florida. There was no staging involved. There was none of the setup for this trial existed here in Florida. It was all transported across the country here, and not just the people, but all of our equipment, we have a whole Street League trial trailer full of stuff. All of that came here. So in terms of media, we've been improvising a little bit. Our full California West Coast media team didn't make the trip. They were not able to. So lots of improvising going on today in terms of my end on what's happening here at the event. And why? For you. That's right. We wanted to make sure you guys had some way to tune in and keep tabs on what's going on. So we're using Instagram as our primary. and it's not ideal. Luckily, we're in an area where there's not a lot of high bandwidth usage, so the feed has been fairly smooth.
I need a rematch.
Now, as we get more activity, more intro to Street League seminars taking place on the East Coast, then we'll have more clubs set up. The more clubs that are set up, the more participants, and then we'll have things like fully staged supplies, trailers out here for the events on the East Coast. It's important to note that Street League weekend, it's an event. The trial is just one part of the event. And this weekend, much of what's been going on is training and education. And what I mean by that is the typical Friday night sideshow. There was no sideshow for trial 4, for event 4. The sideshow was scrapped in lieu of more training. So we did a bite night, intro to Street League fundamentals for anybody who registered for the event today. They were able to meet the decoys. They were able to work through scenarios. They were able to get help and support with anything they had questions on prior to today. This afternoon, evening, we're going to do the same thing. Tomorrow, we're going to do the same thing. So each one of these days, there have been opportunities for these handler dog teams to get extra help, guidance, coaching, and bite work with the decoys. We did that because this is still very new on the East Coast. We wanted to make sure there was plenty of opportunity for people to get the help, support, coaching, instruction, and training that they needed, or even if it's a need, just can benefit from. So we do have Jillian and Mayhem up to the starting line for the picnic table. Now, the unofficial score that Jillian and Mayhem came into this event with was 92. That would have put them in, I think, fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, they were in fourth going into this, 1 point behind Melissa and Colt, who had 93. Jordan and Atlas left Obedience with a 98 in first. Amanda and Logan, 96. Then it was Melissa and Colt with 93. Then Jillian and Mayhem at 92. So let's see how this team does through this scenario. Now, there was a decoy change halfway through here. We now have Jacques Bonnet. He's actually one of our regional directors, one of the regional decoy directors, Midwest. He owns Allegiance K9 out of Memphis, Tennessee. He's now increasing his verbal presence and pressure as they are on bag 3, which means decoy will be approaching the picnic table as the handler dog team depart. So we're going to have the send here. Very smooth. He looked like that was a dance move. Mayhem is our one leg dog here today. Handler has the leash, is now waiting for instruction from the judge. Beautiful out, beautiful come to heel position. There was a little bit of that little spin there was kind of pretty. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed watching that. That was smooth. That was smooth. That was enjoyable. That was enjoyable. Only leg dog today. Now, watching those two work together, you can just see the energy flowing in between them. You can see how much time and repetition and practice that the two of them have put in together. And that's what you have to do. You can't, I mean, yeah, I mean, technically you could wing it, but what would the fun in that be? Because the majority of the meaningful interaction between handler and dog, it's taking place in working through the challenges in training, whether it's at club, whether it's at home, whether it's wherever you're working. That time that you're spending with your dog preparing for something like this, that's the beautiful part. That's where all that communication, all that relationship comes into place. And if any of you follow me on Instagram, which you should already, at KD Matthews at 1T, I'm talking about that stuff all the time. I'm always going on and on and on about functional relationships between handler and dog. And what are the essential elements of a functional relationship between any entity? Communication, trust, respect. That's what functional relationships are built on. Communication, trust, and respect. And these handler dog teams have to have that. They have to. And it's evident when you watch them on the field. You can see the work that's been put in on trial day. Speaking of work having been put in, we now have Melissa and Colt getting ready, about to step onto the field. This team did very well. They were in third place coming into this bite scenario with 93 points. Now you are allowed to use a whistle as a cue, as a command, as she has done with Colt. Scenario has begun. First bag going to the table. Now, if you notice on the first bag, decoy is rather innocuous. Not a lot of pressure, not a lot of presence on that first bag. Now Melissa has picked up the second bag. Now you'll notice the dog's intent is changed here. There is a little bit more attention on the decoy. The dog recognizes this scenario from training. You could see there was a little bit more contact between dog and handler's left leg coming around that first corner. Dog was a little bit more focused on the decoy than he was when they were doing the obedience portion. Now, why is that? Why was the dog less interested in the decoys during obedience than now? Well, associations, the context. They've trained this scenario. The dog knows there's a bite involved. The dog is expecting a bite. So you're going to see different behavior from this dog right now because of that. Now, the goal in training is always to minimize that, mitigate that, eliminate that. That's where the work comes in. So that was our third bag, I believe. Was it? Yes, I believe it was. Yep, here he comes. He's grabbing the bag. Here's the send. 2 hits with the bag. That's going to be the level of opposition and entry level. It's not over the top at all. That's not what entry level is about. Handler has retrieved the bag. Waiting for instructions from the judge. That's a quick out. That was clean. That was clean. Round of applause. Absolutely. Now, something to note. Did she give an out command? Technically, no. No, because you don't have to. The instructions are to out your dog and get them to you. Melissa demonstrated a little bit of savvy there. She knows her dog. She knows what behaviors her dog is strongest in. So rather than out and then recall, she went straight to the whistle, which the whistle is come to heel. And that was clearly a wise decision. Again, she knows her dog. She's put the work in. She knows what's going to work and how to get the best results here on the field that are still within the rule set. So she just blew the whistle, which is come to heel position. So the dog has to out to come to heel position. You see what I'm saying there? So it doesn't have to be like out heel. You can just say heel and the dog returned because there is no guard involved here. If this was an out guard, well, then that wouldn't work because you wouldn't want the dog coming back to you if there was any type of criteria of having to guard or remain with the decoy. That's not how this scenario is run. That is not an element of this scenario, so they don't have to worry about that. You can just give it a toot on the whistle. You know that's going to bring the dog right back. On deck is Chris and X. I have to feed our judge here. One moment.
It's a perfect time for a commercial break.
It's going to be.
Yeah.
Offer him with them. The things I do for these guys. If you like them, discount code KD Matthews
I
12.
told you to put it on the camera so people can know what it is.
All right, approaching on to the field right now is one of our very own decoys, Chris Sotelo with his dog X.
Oh, it was candy.
All right, they have stepped onto the field. Approaching the starting line. You know the drill. 3 bags, 3 rounds. At each drop off to the table, decoy will get a little closer until that 3rd bag, at which point decoy is going to come in, snatch the bag off the table, and the dog will be sent. Going through the cones, about to pick up the 2nd bag. Our decoy, Mr. Jacques Bonnet, out there awaiting his opportunity to come in on that third bag and actually get bit, which is what he's here for today. But right now, his job is just as important as when he's getting bit. His job is to be a presence. His job is to be a distraction. There is no bite until the third bag. That dog must remain under the handler's control until he's told to do something different. And right now, that control is involving a heel. Now it's going to be an issue. He's going to lose some points right there. Some of that verbal, some of that environmental pressure got him a little bit distracted. So this is the third bag. We know what's going to happen now. Dog is on. That grip is not that good. I'm surprised he's okay. He's re-gripping now. I just realized what all those commands are. So Chris's commands: holster, chamber, reload. So I think reload is the out. Holster is the heel. Chamber, I believe, is the sit. That's the thing, folks. You can teach your dog using any sounds you want, because the reality is all obedience commands are to a dog are sounds. They're sounds that through your training and through your work, you will have a behavioral association. There will be a context that goes there with that sound. You know, people are like, you know, oh, my dog speaks 3 languages. No, your dog doesn't. Your dog just has identified the association that you have taught it to identify with those sounds. They're just sounds coming out of your mouth. They're not words to a dog. They're sounds. I have seen people train their dogs in numbers. I actually had a client many years ago who the owner wanted me to train the dog in colors. So like red, blue, green, orange, all meant something. And to be quite honest, I found that very challenging. Not because of the training of the behavior. For me to remember what the heck they wanted, I had to have a cheat sheet to remember what each color meant behaviorally, what that was in terms of a command. They're just sounds. They're just sounds. So Chris Otello chose some interesting sounds for his dog. I'm just looking at the comments. I was wondering, someone's commenting here, Jillian does fruit. I couldn't, from where I'm standing, it's not always crystal clear what they're saying. I definitely knew she wasn't using textbook common cues, but interesting now that you're telling me it's fruit. So in our staging area right now, getting ready, is our final dog for the scenario. Jordan and Atlas. Jordan is one of our K9 Street League Pro decoys. They're entering, looking really good, really good. How a dog steps onto the field is a strong indicator of how that scenario is going to go. And the handlers know this. Handlers will pull dogs regularly, right in the beginning. Right in the beginning. Heck, I have done that. I stepped onto the field, approached the judge and the steward, looked at my dog, looked at the judge, and I said, boop, boop. We didn't even do a single thing. I could tell in that moment that for me to have proceeded in that situation, it would have been dangerous because my dog was looking at everyone, in particular one individual who wasn't in a bite suit could not run at that point. That was many years ago. I know I look super young. I realize I don't look a day over 32, but it was a while. It was like 20 years ago. All right, bag number 2 is being grabbed and put onto the table. Decoy's verbal presence is becoming louder. Now, as Jordan and Atlas grab the 3rd bag, our decoy, Mr. Jacques Bonnet, will be approaching that table to grab that bag, at which point you already know what's going to happen. The dog will be sent. Here comes the theft. One, two, dog is on the bite, re-gripping, took the opposition. Handler will return to the dog and wait for the judge's instructions. That was a super fast out. I didn't know what was happening until the dog was already returned to heel position. That out was that fast. So with that being said, that concludes this scenario. We're going to go ahead and take a timeout on the video while we set up for the next scenario. We'll be back in a moment. In the meantime, while you're waiting for us, head over to our sponsors' website. Go do it. Go there. Ray Allen Manufacturing. Discount code Primal10. Go check them out. Buy some stuff. If you're anything like me, that's what happens. Like any downtime, I'm on Amazon. I'm on somewhere. Yeah, we're not going to get into my problems right now. See you guys shortly. And we're back. Second bite scenario. The bag snatch. Not the movie snatch, the bag snatch. And first up is going to be Javier and Killer. Now, had some interesting conversations during our intermission, as always. And, oh wait, here comes our on-the-field camera. That's Come on, field camera. Still waiting for it to load because that camera feed is way more important than this one. So I'm talking to them about that camera. I'm waiting for it to load. Trying it again. There we go.
Oh, we don't need my face.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Cut the mic.
We got to see her. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Look at that. So, bag snatch, handler protection. And that's kind of what I was talking about, that we were having some interesting conversations over intermission, is when you look at the different sports, a lot of the principles behind the scenarios are similar, if not the same. It's just going to be subtle tweaks, subtle nuances, just a little different here, a little different there. And that's what the handler and their training team and their club need to prepare for. Because you can have 3 different carjackings from 3 different sports. Being good at one and scoring good in one doesn't mean you're going to score well in the other, because there might be different elements of the scenario that are different. And you have to teach the dog everything about the context. They don't know that the rule is different. They don't know that the expected behavior is different unless you, as the handler and trainer, communicate that to them, teach them. So bag snatch, handler protection, basically this scenario is to recreate, mimic a robbery, right? So you have the handler is going to be initially approached by the decoy bad guy in a friendly manner. Hey, how you doing? Nice shoes. And then they're going to walk by each other. And at that point, our decoy is going to turn around and follow. Real cringe, real creepy, like creep alert, like sketchy sketch, following the person. And upon reaching up to take from the handler's hand, whatever they're in possession of, however the bag is that they're using this time, the dog is expected to respond appropriately to the sketchy, cringy, creepy guy grabbing the bag. So, all right, Javier and Killer, they're working at the kinks. They're trying to get their mojo as they get ready to step onto the field. Heading up to the starting line with the judge. He's having a little bit of difficulty here, and he sees it. He sees it. So the reason why you see him kind of like taking these back steps is because he's watching his dog, and when he's walking in a straight line, the dog is starting to forage, meaning the dog is starting to creep ahead of him. That's why you see Javier kind of doing those little adjustments. He's trying to get the dog sucked back into him so he doesn't get too far ahead and get dinged on too many points or start to get out of sync. Little fist bump. Here comes the snatch, the attack, the catch, opposition. I like that part. I like the part where the handler gets involved in attacking the bad guy. That's actually, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you right now. Wrong place, wrong time. But there is a lot to be said about interacting with a decoy and training the way your dog is interacting with them. You see it so often where handler sends their dog on a bad guy and stands back there and watches the decoy work with the dog. Well, why aren't you in there with your dog? Outside of running scenarios for a trial, there is something to be said about, in training, interacting with your dog as a team member against the bad guy. Depending on the state of mind you're training in with the dog, there's a lot of ground that can be gained in your relationship with your dog in bite work when they truly see and feel you as their team member right there beside them. An often overlooked or underappreciated element of working with your dog in this capacity. I'm just looking at the chat there. I do not have an updated standing. See if I can get one for you. I would like to know how it runs after each event. They're probably still tallying them. As that information gets presented to me, I will present it to you unofficially, of course. So coming up next is going to be Amanda and Logan. They had been doing very well through all the scenarios. I had to step away from the desk, so I actually didn't see their performance in the last one. My decoy is doing push-ups, and I'm not sure why, other than Mike Jones told him to. Our decoy for this event is none other than Jordan Henderson. And I was talking to you guys earlier telling you that I had a really interesting conversation with Jordan regarding the name of his business out in Denver, Colorado, in Kentone. I'm probably saying that wrong. It's the Zulu word for the in Kentane. I had my accent in the wrong place. They can hear me out there in the field cam. In Kentane, it's the Zulu word for one of the coolest canids on earth. Not Canis familiaris. No, the Cape hunting dog, or the African hunting dog. Super cool animal, and I had a great, super cool conversation with Jordan about it. So right now, Jordan is approaching our handler dog team, which is going to be Amanda and Logan. See, that I just saw something I really liked there. As Amanda gave the command to heel, the dog, for a split second, almost was thinking they were going to get a bite command. Heard the heel command and immediately corrected itself and went into position. We're talking a fraction of a second of the dog thinking and figuring it out. Now, it took a little bit longer for Logan to let go. We did get an additional command, which would be a small point deduction. One nice thing about this scenario, we'll go through all the dogs rather quickly. There's not a lot of build up here. There's not a whole lot to do. Oh, I'm getting a little pronunciation help here in the comments. In Kentane. Okay, the traveling Hendersons helped me out here. It's interesting because he wrote it down, but then I had to write it down like kind of phonetically in my notes, and I have been struggling ever since. I didn't do too good when I was taking Zulu in high school foreign language. Coming up next is going to be Sandra and Mr. Sinister. I've been enjoying watching Sin this whole day. I'm enjoying his healing. Big, strong, strapping dog that is out here having an absolute blast. All fun, all joy. That's what you'd expect to see from a bulldog. That's what you want to see. Biggest clowns there are that can absolutely wreck what you point them at when bred right and trained right. Oh, here I am looking, pruning my already long neck to try to see back, and I just realized all I have to do is see our lovely second cam feed, and I can see everything I wanted to see without having to move. Our out-of-state decoys are definitely having it easy today. I've been in Florida for 20 years last month, and I can tell you the weather here is not conducive most of the time to wearing a bite suit. Between the heat and humidity, it'll shrivel you up like a raisin. like a dried up old raisin sitting on a picnic table in Arizona, shriveled. That's what happens to you when you get so dehydrated wearing a bite suit in Florida. But right now we got a breeze. I'm comfortable. They're not as uncomfortable as they could be if it was a month ago. And while all of that is happening, Sandra in Minister Sinister Sin approaching the field, about to come on. Look at this dog. This dog's having a blast. He's like, do I get to go wreck shit, Mom? And she says, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Nope, he's prancing again. I love watching this dog. All right, now the approach is beginning. Beautiful focus. Even as the decoy came up, almost all focus was on the handler. Now let's see how Sin does with the decoy approaching from behind. No issue. 1, 2 up position hits. Dog is regripping, still engaged in the fight. Sandra with her 2 hits. Now wow. That was clean. That was clean. I like this dog. I do. I enjoy watching not just the healing, but I mean, look at the focus through the bite work. Bite's over. They're leaving the field. The dog is still absolutely attention healing with the owner. That was smooth. That was a nice release. Yep. Nothing in the entry level requires a guard. I just saw a question in the chat. There's no guarding. There's no guarding in the entry level. I don't even, off the top of my head, I don't think there's any guarding in the 1. So coming up next, Jillian and Mayhem. Yeah. See, someone else just said, that's a nice bulldog. And I said, yeah, because it is. Nope, there are 4. So we have a total of 4 bite work scenarios. We have the picnic table. We have the bag snatch, which is where we're at right now. Then we move into the carjacking, which is my favorite. Then after the carjacking, we have the face attack. Now we do have a decoy switch happening right now mid-exercise. Now, the reason for that is we do have 2 of our decoys handling as well. So clearly, that's not going to work. They can't decoy every single dog because it doesn't work holding the leash of your own dog. And like, no, it's not going to happen that way. So we got to do a decoy switch. Gracing the fields for the first time today in a bite scenario is going to be K9 Street League Pro Decoy and West Coast Regional Director of Decoys, Neil. It's like Nordstrom, Soderstrom. Everyone pronounces his last name wrong. I might do it on purpose. Soderstrom. Like Nordstrom, but Soderstrom, kind of, sort of. It's Neil. We call him Neil because that's his first name. No one uses his last name. Neil's out of San Diego, SoCal Bike Club. I've had some interesting conversations with him. Very athletic, physical guy. He also brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Trains actually at the same school that a good buddy of mine trains at, over at Atos headquarters. And for all the Jiu-Jitero and Jiu-Jitsu aficionados, he's training with some of the best on the planet Earth out there at Atos headquarters with Andre Galvao and the likes of some absolute monsters when it comes to submission grappling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he goes and frolics and rolls around with them all week when he's not catching dogs. So very active guy, very athletic. And he's bringing some energy to the table today. And he's going to bring that energy. I don't think he's going to be able to use his Jiu-Jitsu brown belt right now, but he is going to bring some decoy skills against Jillian and Mayhem as they step onto the field. Just a little bit of handling going on right now. Jillian's getting Mayhem's focus. They're getting their connection, their mojo happening. The approach. Here's the interaction, the greeting. Now remember, the dog cannot bite yet. Fist bump, walk away. Now here comes Creepy Neil. Snatch, and there's the catch. 1, 2 opposition hits with the bag. Now Jillian will come up. She'll give her 2. And now it's time for the out. So she did an out into a down, approached her dog, then went off with the heel, which all was crispy clean, by the way. Crispy clean. And it needs to be crispy clean because there's some tough competition out here right now in these bite scenarios. We're talking individual points it's going to come down to because we're seeing some pretty solid performances. Up next is going to be Melissa and Colt. And they've had solid performances here so far. So I'm looking for, I know people have been asking, I'm looking forward to seeing what the scores are at right now because I don't know. After these scenarios have been run, I have no idea what's happened. I knew what the scores were coming out of obedience. I do not have any information updates after the last scenario yet. Just taking a quick second here to take a look in the comments. There was, I believe, 10 dogs total, and we've already had, I think, 1. Yes, we've had 1 DQ, so we're down to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're down to 8. There was a total of 9, I believe, for today. And all these folks will be sticking around. And what are they sticking around for? Well, when we're done with bite work, doing intermission, and moving right into some education, training, and coaching on all the exercises, any handling tips that can come back from our judges and from our decoys. And everyone who attended here is going to get a whole lot of extra support. And that's the point. That's the plan. This is the first East Coast trial event for K9 Street League. So we wanted to make sure that there was a lot of support for people that are new to this. This is their first time. Everyone here, with the exception of maybe Chris Sotelo, because he's a decoy and he's been at every trial, but this is everyone's first try. This is everyone's first run at this. So we wanted to make sure that there was ample opportunity for further support, coaching, training. That's what we did last night. Instead of in lieu of the sideshow, we had training. Because the field is not super long today, we don't have a ton of competitors, we had already capped it at a low number for this reason, because we wanted to make sure we had time for training afterwards. And then tomorrow, anybody who was here today can also come back for even more support. Colt is fired up right now. Super vocal dog, super cool dog. Now, if you recall, Colt is the one who has the whistle recall, and it's actually to heel position, and it's super sharp. Look at that. That is a phenomenal come to heel position. So you will see now through these exercises, rather than giving out and a recall, rather than giving out and a heel command, Melissa will use the whistle. And she will just simply whistle the dog into heel. Now, I will say this. Right now, Colt is looking a little amped. And Melissa knows it well. So what's super important for Melissa right now is to remain calm. She knows that dog is ready to go. She knows it is. And I've been on that field before. And right now, I can only imagine in her mind, she's thinking, please don't get ahead of me. Please don't go too soon. Because she can read it in her dog. She can read the excitement in her dog. And this is where it comes down to, you really have to trust your dog and trust the training. Here's Neil with the snatch. And just look. Okay, so the way that dog just went and engaged with our decoy Neil, that explains where that dog's mindset was the whole time. That dog wanted to bite very badly, very excited at that opportunity. And like I was saying, Melissa was aware of that. Wow, that whistle out to recall to heel is beautiful. We can see why she chooses to do that, because she trusts and knows what the response from the dog is going to be like. It's absolutely solid. That leaves two more. After this, we have the carjacking, and then whoever's left, because probably won't be many, the face attack. And when you hear me say that, everyone, it's because if you've been to any of these trials, been to these events, watched them on YouTube, you know what that carjacking does. That carjacking weeds them out. Like, if there's a field of 20, there won't be 20 after the carjacking. Unless people spend a little bit more time evaluating that scenario and altering their training. It is not like other carjacking scenarios. It's not, hey, wait, there I am and there I am. That was interesting. Yep, I'm just looking at the comments. Yeah, the street league carjacking is the game changer. It is. It's very different. You'll find out why shortly. We only got a couple dogs left in this bag snatch, and we're going to take a break. And when I come back for that carjacking, I'll break it down for you. And I'll tell you why it's going to be fun to see who makes it through. And listen, if you've tuned into these events before, you know what we do like to do is we like to take polls and we get you guys involved and have you guess who's going to make it through. It really is that serious. Meaning a lot of dogs don't get through that event. A lot of dogs don't get through that event. So we usually like to take a little friendly poll. See what y'all think. And I usually get to have a whole lot of fun with my co-commentator, Bob Owens. Let's pour a little bit out for Bob because he's not here. He's home with one of his dogs. They just had a C-section, I think 2 days ago, 11 healthy puppies out of Mama Summit. So congratulations to Bob Owens up there at Lone Duck and Mama Summit. Summit is one of my favorite females that he has. And I'm really trying not to watch his Instagram too much because I don't need puppy fever. And she had a litter of predominantly yellow. These are all working line field trial labs, and they're gorgeous. So Bob couldn't make it down here, so I'm running solo. Of course, I have all my help people on the field. We got Meg out there who doesn't want to be on camera, but she should be. So she turned around because she can hear me. All right, enough of that. We got Chris Sotelo and X Chamber. Let me sit. Holster. Chamber means sit. Holster is heel.
Chamber.
We have the friendly greeting.
Next holster.
All right, so he's going to lose points there. Why is he going to lose points? Did you see it? He knew the dog was going to go early, and there was a lot of leash work going in there. That's not. So he's going to get slammed on points there. But he knows it, and he's trying to work through as the handler the best he can to minimize the deductions, but they're going to come. And that's what you have to do is figure out like what your dog's doing. There's the training, and then there's the trialing. He felt that dog coming across them and was going to be an early bite. He used the leash. He knew he was going to get deductions. But sometimes you will intentionally take this deduction to avoid a DQ or take this deduction to avoid a bigger deduction. I don't know how that's going to turn out in the scorecards. That'll be up to our judges, and we'll let you know as soon as I know. And last is going to be Jordan and Atlas. They have had a ridiculously stellar performance up to this point. I mean, crispy clean. Interesting background music. Got some booty music playing over there. Some slow R&B jams. Like, I don't know. Read the room. Is it that type of vibe? Could get creepy. Usually we have full DJ on our West Coast trials. Right now, I think we're working off a playlist. I want to know what this playlist is labeled, though. That's what I want to know. Take a moment to scroll. Here they are, our final dog and handler team. Jordan and Atlas, been crushing it. Lots of focus here, lots of teamwork, lots of collaborative efforts between human and dog, which is what it's all about. It's fun to watch. If you're a dog nerd, it's fun to watch. Approaching our decoy. Even though he is a coiled spring of fierce decoying ability and energy, it's just Neil. Little fist bump there. Little heel. Here comes Creepy Neil, grabbing the bag. There's the bite. There it is. Mouth full of Soderstrom. Not to be confused with Nordstrom. Hit him harder. He deserves it. Look at that out. Tough team to beat. Tough team to beat. All right, folks. That was our last handler dog team for this scenario. Up next is the carjacking. So this is going to take a little bit of setup. I'm going to shut down here and shut my mouth for a little bit because I'm looking forward to not talking for at least 5 minutes while we get everything ready for my favorite event. I'll be back. We'll be back. You'll be back. In the meantime, RayAllenManufacturing.com. Thank you to our sponsors. And also, big thank you to John, Big John K from John K9, hosting this wonderful event here in Plant City, Florida. Super great place, super great facility, super great dude. There she is. There's Meg. There's Meg. Dog trainer, podcaster extraordinaire. The Everyday Dog Trainer. The Everyday Dog Trainer. Yeah. .com.
Yeah.
The Everyday Dog Trainer.com. Please go there. Check it out. Bookmark it. You know what to do. Notifications on, all that jazz. It's so easy to do. So easy. You click the little bell, you click like, you click follow, you click. Right now I'm clicking off. We are back. And it's time for the carjacking. Yes, my favorite event, a lot of people's favorite event, the carjacking. Well, why is it our favorite event? And meanwhile, while I'm talking, we have Javier and Killer stepping onto the field. And we're about to get that field camera from the Everyday Dog Trainer. Just accept. And while that feed is popping up, I'll explain to you the carjacking. Why it's my favorite. Why it's so many people's favorites. Why it's our competitors. Oftentimes it's their least favorite. So we've seen carjackings in bite sports before. It's not new. However, in Street League, this is a pain in the butt, by the way. Just so you know. Here's the thing about the Street League carjacking. You put the dog in the vehicle. You get in the vehicle. So far, so good. We've seen this before, right? Textbook carjacking. Well, the similarities stop once you get in the vehicle. Javier has now gotten in the vehicle with his dog. He is going to now drive the vehicle. The vehicle is going to be put in gear. It's going to be turned on, put in gear, and now he's going to drive it up the field. We haven't seen that before. Then, once he gets to the designated position, he's going to leave the vehicle with the dog in it. So, I mean, I guess technically, I'm sure someone out there is thinking it, so I'm going to say it. Technically, it's not a carjacking, because carjacking is where you're in the vehicle and someone comes up to the vehicle. No, Javier is gone. He has left his dog in the vehicle. And now what's going to happen is our decoy is going to approach and try to get into the vehicle with the dog in it. Success here in this scenario involves the dog immediately engaging the decoy. Our decoy, by the way, none other than Father Time himself. It's actually stitched on his bite suit. He's not going to get mad that we call him Father Time, because Scott Crawford Hillen from Clearwater, Florida, is our oldest human being on the bite field right now. He has gotten in. I do not have the view. You guys have a better view than I do. I did not have the angle. I did not see. I was looking at, I need to remember that I can just look on the screen here and I can see the other camera. So what happens here, and where people mess up, is like so many dogs are used to being agitated at the car window by a decoy. Ah, and the dog's hanging out the window ready to bite. Okay, not here. This dog must operate independently of the handler. So that means in training, you have to train this in that way. You have to train this appropriately. If And here's the thing, I mean, the rule book is online. All of the previous trials are online. Anybody interested in competing in K9 Street League, you can watch everybody else go through this stuff. There's no surprises in the entry level. We don't want there to be surprises. We want everyone to be prepared. We want everyone to know what to train for, and that's important. If you know the rules of the scenario, you know how the engagement is going to go, well, now you have opportunity to go back to your trial club, your training club, talk to your training director, talk to whoever you are training with, and put together a training plan that meets the needs of the scenario. And I just saw a comment in here. I was just having a conversation off the field during intermission. I mean, if it were me, if I was the one out here, which I'm not, I would train this like an object guard. You can give your dog any cue you want when you put them in the vehicle. You can amp them up, you can fire them up, and that's what a lot of people do. They get the dog fired up in the vehicle. You can do that. You can also give your dog a command in the vehicle. Treat it like an object guard. I mean, this is problem solving, right? All training, training is problem solving. You have a scenario, you look at the criteria of the scenario, you try to look at it through the dog's point of view. You look at possibly other scenarios, other well-established training activities that you might be able to pull from, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You don't have to, I mean, think about French ring. They got the basket, right? And then they got the circles around the basket. I'm not a big French ring guy, but I know that much. Same principle. Come within this perimeter, dog engages, leave perimeter, dog lets go. In this case, you don't necessarily need them to let go outside of the out command, but you could just use the principles. And I talk about this all the time in my own work with dog owners, principle over method. If you understand the why, it'll make the how so much easier. And whenever I talk about that, I always have to give a shout out and reference the quote by none other than Pat Nolan, who once said on an episode of Working Dog Radio, big shout out to the folks at Working Dog Radio, Ted and Eric. But Pat said it best, if we don't understand the principle, we'll be a slave to the method forever. Let that marinate. And while it's marinating, we have Sandra and Minister Sinister. I told you I've enjoyed watching this team. I've enjoyed watching this dog immensely. Heading up to the vehicle now. I like this dog. I do. I don't know his disposition off the field. I don't know what he's like to live with. But I'm watching him out here, and he makes me smile. Because he's smiling. Big old bulldog. They look like they're always smiling. Dog is in the vehicle, so now Sandra will get in the vehicle with her dog. She will drive it up the field. She can say whatever she wants to say to that dog while she's in there. And we will find out how their training has been. Judge has instructed her to move up to point B. I can hear that dog in there already geeking. He is gassed up, scanning the perimeter for whoever is going to be the potential threat. Now, this is the thing. If you choose to just fire your dog up in the vehicle, here's the potential issue. You got the judge standing within visual line of the dog. If you just blindly fire your dog up, he could easily fixate on the judge through the passenger window. So when the decoy comes into the driver's side, I've seen dogs, we've all seen dogs just keep focusing on the person through the window and ignore the person who came in the vehicle. That's the risk you run if you're just blindly firing the dog up, as opposed to having a specific command with an associated behavior with criteria that matches the scenario. No, I'm not trying to talk fancy. That's just what it is. Our decoy actually right now is going to be Mr. Reggie Garth from Dallas, Texas. It's going to be his first scenario of the day, and, well, sin delivered. Reggie Garth from Dallas, Texas. He owns a company called Beast Fit, where he specializes in canine fitness, nutrition, and health, a much needed influence for dog owners and help for dog owners. We had a repeat command there, but the dog did out. I know she's happy. She has to be happy with the level of engagement that dog brought the decoy on the scenario. Again, the scenario that does thin the field out significantly. The key to training for this, the key to training for any scenario is understanding what are the elements of the scenario. What is the dog required to do? And then getting with your training director and putting together a plan that incorporates the associated behaviors and the need of the dog. And if you have your fundamentals down, if you have the understanding that you can look through your dog's eyes and see what's happening from their perspective, that'll help you break down how you're going to teach them the scenario, how you're going to teach them what they need to do, how you can recreate the appropriate picture that they're going to see in the trial, communicate to them what they need to do, set them up for success so they can achieve that success and realize, yes, that is what I'm supposed to do. It's no different than anything else you're going to teach a dog. The principles are always universal. What it's going to look like, it's going to vary on the handler, it's going to vary on the dog, it's going to vary on the scenario. There's so many variables there, but that's what comes with training anything. Are those variables. Those variables don't go away. Train the dog in front of you for what you need them to do. And Sin was clearly up for the task of the carjacking. There was no hesitation on that dog. He immediately engaged Reggie. It was a non-issue. Special note, in that last scenario, we had the first ever perfect score in a scenario. Melissa and Colt scored 100. I did get that scoring information. I don't have the total tallies. It was a quick walk by. They were still working on a couple other scores. They did get a perfect score on that scenario. And I believe that is the first perfect scenario score that we've had to date. Not today, but to date in general in K9 Street League. Waiting for our next team. If you have any thoughts, any interest, any hopes, any inkling of participating in a K9 Street League trial, the first thing to do is attend one of the Intro to Street League seminars. There's been a number of them held all around the country this year. Next year, expect even more. We do have some intro to Street League seminars taking place overseas outside of our borders, because we do have Street League clubs all over the world now training and preparing for these events, for these trials. But that's the next step. Get over to streetleague.com. Obviously, if you're watching this, you follow K9 Street League on Instagram. There's constant updates, constant posts, constant information that is being presented, letting you know about dates. The website always has the dates on it. Getting to one of those intro to Street League seminars is going to be a great first step for you. That's where you can get hands-on, learning the scenarios, getting ideas and input from Mike Jones himself, who wrote all the scenarios. Some of the Street League seminars have our head judge, Oscar Mora. Like, that's where you can learn some stuff and get to work some stuff with your dog. Whether you're there with a dog, whether you're there for an audit, get to those intro seminars. Go to a couple. Go to 2, go to 3. Figure out what you need to do or what you need to do differently to prepare for the scenarios. Today, this has all been entry level. Doable. If you're running through other programs, if you're running through other sports, couple small tweaks, a little bit of problem solving, should be good to go. Coming up next, we have Jillian and Mayhem. Now, I know they have done PSA. PSA, different style carjacking. Your decoy is going to come to the vehicle, window down, presenting the bite right there. This, as you have now observed, is very different. Now, I'm sure they have absolutely trained, changed the pictures so that the dog could see what this picture is going to look like in preparation. Now we'll find out how well that training has gone. Jillian about to load the dog into the vehicle. Now she will get into the vehicle and drive it down to point B, at which point she will tell her dog whatever she wants to tell the dog while she's in there. Leave, and then it's up to the dog. Our decoy for this round, it's going to be Mr. Scott Crawford again, Father Time himself, oldest man on the field. I like it when he's here, because now I'm not the oldest person. The handler has left the vehicle. It should be noted, the handler has not only left the vehicle, but the handler goes completely out of sight. And that is absolutely relevant and worth mentioning, because it is a factor for the dog. Many times the dog is going to want to keep its eye on its handler for obvious reasons. They are partners. The dog's going to want to watch their partner. In this scenario, though, the handler is actually standing behind a blind. Here comes Father Time himself. No agitation. Well, no bite. The dog did not engage the decoy, and that's why we say this carjacking is the one that weeds them out. By the time we get to the face attack, we usually have a lot, significantly fewer dogs. So what does this mean for Jillian and Mayhem? It means they just have to run this scenario. They have to go back and they have to troubleshoot. The best part about this weekend is they don't have to go home to troubleshoot. Meaning, right after the bite work today, once the trial portion is completed, we are having a troubleshooting workshop. So anyone who participated, who had any issues whatsoever in the trial, at any of the scenarios, gets to work through them with Mike Jones and the decoys. You don't have to go home and reinvent the wheel yet. You can stay here and get help working through what you need help with. And I'm sure Jillian and Mayhem will want to take advantage of that with the carjacking scenario. Remember, it's about pictures. It's about that dog having seen this picture enough that the dog completely understands what's required of it. And this is a very different picture. That's why the carjacking is not the first one. Get some people an opportunity to get some bites in other dogs. Put the carjacking second to last and go from there. Getting ready to come on the field now. Going to be Melissa and Colt. Like I mentioned, they absolutely crushed the last scenario with the first perfect score in a scenario ever. That was the bag snatch. Now we're going to see how the dog does in the carjacking. Ask yourself, if you were to train for this scenario, what would you be doing? How would you structure it? What would your classroom look like? Meaning, what environment? How would you set that environment up? How are you going to communicate to the dog through how you structure the lesson, how you structure the session? How are you going to communicate to the dog exactly what you want the dog to do? That is your job as the trainer. Your job as a trainer is to help the dog understand what it is you want them to do so they can be successful. There's a variety of ways you can go about that. But no matter which way you choose to go about that, you have to understand the principles of learning. You have to understand how the dog learns. You have to understand how the dog is going to see things so that you can shape and mold that classroom, that scenario where you're training, so they can learn. Handler has placed the dog in the vehicle. Now she will go around, hop in, drive the vehicle to point B. Then our decoy will approach and enter. One key element for the carjacking is making sure you have a reliable vehicle that will start in between every scenario. It would be kind of awkward if the car didn't start. And then everyone's looking at whose car it is, and they've already hidden in the bathroom because of shame, and they just want to disappear. But the trial must go on. Luckily, this car has started every time. All right. Melissa's about to get out. She's going to go take a walk, hide in the blind. Our decoy working this round of this scenario. We're alternating. So we have Mr. Reggie. All right. Handler is hidden. The dog now has no visual on their handler. None. Can't see her. The dog is operating 100% independent right now. And here comes Mr. Reggie Garth from Dallas, Texas. Trains out there with Dan, the K9 man. Dan the man. Reggie looking like a big old lemon and lime, having a love fest. He's real citrusy. Oh, he's bit. He's been bit. Right away. Instant engagement. Colt and Melissa are crushing it. They're crushing it. And clean out. I don't know what the scorecard is total. I don't. But I am going to say that's going to be a team that's tough to beat today. Absolutely tough to beat. Just like this collar on my shirt is really easy to beat. It's been getting beat up all day by this microphone. They're going to be tough to beat. All right, here we go. Another team that is going to be incredibly tough to beat, that have been showing well on every single scenario. Jordan and Atlas. I told you the carjacking is going to be the one. Now you understand. If you didn't know before, you know now. If you're planning on coming out for Street League, this is the one you're probably going to need to put the most work in. If you've trained it in other ways. Now, some people, if you understand how to paint pictures for your dog and you understand how to get a dog where they need to be in terms of how they understand what's happening and what they see, it's just another scenario. It's just another scenario. You set it up, show the dog what they got to do, let them know they did the right thing, make it real easy for them to do what you want them to do, make it real difficult for them to do the things that you don't want them to do. That's dog training. Whether you're teaching this carjacking scenario, whether you're teaching an obedience behavior, it's training. Jordan and Atlas making their way to the pristine carjacking vehicle for today's scenario. This car looks like it's probably been attempted to be jacked many times. It's such a fancy vehicle. Here we go. It's about to put the dog in. Now he will come around. He will get in. He will drive down to point B. Hope the vehicle starts. I'll cross my toes. Now that I've said that, now that I've made the reference of the car not starting, how many of you think about that every scenario now, every run? Do you think, is it going to start? Is it going to start? Is it going to start? I've planted the seed of doubt. Yeah, the dog is really liking our judge there. Oh, barky, barky. I don't think that dog wanted him to get out. Now, there's not much to hear other than dogs barking. All right, so the handler is now behind the blind, completely out of sight of the dog. We got Father Time Scott Crawford decoying this round. He is now making his approach to the vehicle. And as with every other round that we've had, he will open. There is no agitation. There is no screaming, yelling, ah. No, he's going to just walk over to the car. He's going to open the door. He's going to get in. The dog has a certain amount of time. There is a timer. The dog doesn't have to engage immediately, but he needs to engage. If the dog doesn't engage, which he has not engaged yet, failure to engage. Tough break. That's a tough break for them, as they have been crushing it in the obedience, in the other scenarios, the control work. But we did have a failure to engage. Now, that's really good news for Melissa and Cole. I mean, let's just keep it real. It is. Because that's where the pressure was coming from. It was coming from Jordan and Atlas. And we'll take a look at these scores. I think that's it for this scenario. I told you, the carjacking's no joke. This is the one that really, really weeds them out. And oftentimes there's a lot of surprises. There's a lot of surprises. Not every dog is going to do what people think they're going to do. You get dogs who you're like, I don't think he's going to bite. And then that dog will bite. And you got one who's like, oh, he's crushing it at every one, and then doesn't. So with that being said, we're going to do a scenario change. This will be our final scenario, the face attack. You know what to do. Get over to our sponsor, Ray Allen Manufacturing. Go check out some stuff while you're waiting to see the rest of the action. And I'll catch you shortly. See ya. This is it. The final event. The final countdown. Yeah, 80 songs are always just playing, and they sneak out when the opportunity presents itself. I'll spare you. So, we are down to 2 dogs. That's what the carjacking does. It shrinks the field. Our final 2 dogs going head to head. Right now we have Sandra and Minister Sinister. Yes, this is the dog I've been commenting frequently how much I enjoy seeing him work. We're trying to get this field camera going here. And it didn't. There we go. Right the last second is the beautiful catch, beautiful hit. That camera feed came in about 3 seconds after the dog hit. I'm not surprised. Hey, Meg, turn the camera around.
It's frozen. I
It's
can't.
frozen? Cell phone's frozen, people. Apologies. We got Chris Sotelo working Sin. I think Sin is working Chris Sotelo. The way it looks like the dog is absolutely doing what it needs to do. He did not want to let go. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't want to let go. That dog moved downfield. You didn't see it. I did. Lucky me. Unlucky you. Show up to an event and then you get to see it all. That dog has been a pleasure to watch all day. Now we have Melissa and Colt. Face attack is a scenario that most people are familiar with. It's a staple. It's a staple in dog sports. Your textbook dog on one end, decoy on the other. They go towards each other and meet. It's nothing we haven't seen before, yet we still enjoy seeing it each and every time. I hear a whistle. You know what that means? Do you know what that means? That means Melissa and Colt are approaching the field, because whenever you hear a whistle, you know they're near. Colt has been getting more and more fired up as the day has gone on. This dog enjoys this work immensely, and you can tell. Melissa enjoys it too. You can tell when the team enjoys it. You can tell when the team is working together. Now, typically on trial day, us humans are the ones maybe a little bit on edge. The dogs are just like, when do I get to do that thing that I love doing? When are you going to let me do it? Now, right now, what Melissa is doing is she's doing everything in her power within the scope of what she's allowed to do to get Colt dialed in, to get him as close to where he needs to be mentally to get out here and do the job. Now, I mean, the good news is the face attack doesn't have a ton of elements to it. It's take your dog to the line, down them, send them on the decoy, and then out them. Now, so far today, one of the strongest elements of Colt's performance has been that out. That's when we hear that whistle, that's her come to heel command. And she has returned that dog to heel on that whistle damn near flawlessly every time.
Remember, your obedience before is not being judged. So.
And they're on the field, heading to the start line. These are the final two dogs, folks. Why? Because the carjacking just cleans everything out. That's why. Sotelo, Chris Sotelo is our decoy down range.
Hello, you ready?
Here we go. Good catch. Dog's on. Now what's left? We're not worried about the dog popping off here. Colt has not shown any hesitation in this part of the scenario. Melissa's approaching her dog. All that's left now is going to be the out, which she'll probably blow the whistle. I'm going to take a bet, take a guess. It was his slowest out, but he did it. There wasn't any regrip. It took him a second to process what he was going to do, but he did it. Well, folks, there it is. Our fourth K9 Street League event held here on the wonderful accommodations provided by Big John Kudig at John K9 here in Plant City, Florida. Big shout out, massive appreciation to them. If you're in the Tampa, Lakeland, even Orlando area, Plant City, Florida, and you need boarding, this facility is still being built out. It's already awesome. And I know John personally, solid human being, great dog trainer, going to take great care of the dogs here. And they provided a beautiful venue for us, our competitors, and our spectators, and our staff, and everyone who came through. Ray Allen Manufacturing, sponsor for this K9 Street League event. All products made by hand in the United States for you and your dog, whether you have a working dog, police canine, military, or whether you got Foo-Foo. Foo-Foo the cuddle bug. Ray Allen Manufacturing has stuff for you, and we are very grateful to them for supporting the growth and spread of K9 Street League and everything we do here. Very appreciative to our sponsor. Big thank you to the competitors and their dogs. These teams came out here today, and there's something to be said about going out to an event, the first event out here in this region. The people who were like, you know what, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do it. They had some intro to Street League seminars, but other than that, there hasn't been a lot outside of watching YouTube. And that says a lot about the people who showed up today and the work that they put in and their desire to come out here and compete and have a good time with their dogs. What's going to happen this evening and then again tomorrow, we're going to have workshops here for all of the competitors. Anyone who got DQ'd, anyone who has a concern with points that they lost, they get to come out here with the decoys and work through it and get help. Melissa has been one hell of a competitor today and an amazing partner for an amazing dog, Colt. Well, folks, we're going to cut this down for now. We'll be back up a little bit later as we go through the scores, have the final announcements from Mike Jones himself, president of K9 Street League, the founder, the originator, person who wrote it all down and is making it all happen. Thank you for tuning in. Did the best I could by myself. Bob, we all missed you. I think everyone watching missed you more than I did because they had to listen to me all day long. Big thank you to the everyday dog trainer, Meg, who's been out there. She's got the camera still. And that's going to do it for now. We'll pop back on with presentations. Thank you.